Hey YouTube, nice to see you again. It's been another week and another update from my side. Finally I feel the real challenge, and now I understand why there are so many advices not to start everything all together, but I'm still surviving and I'm still believing I'm making through it. One more thing was on my map, on my list for this week. I've been preparing for my speech at local dev club. I'm handling this today, and that's the reason why I have delayed this video, as yesterday I had to finish my presentation, and despite the pressure I'm finding an islands of focused work, finding some time to make moves toward my goals. And here are the updates regarding the Telegram bot. So actually there are three things I'm mentioning today. Number one is Go Telegram Bot API library. This is a library of my choice I'm using for communicating with Telegram. The most important part of it is it provides Golang structs for the JSON, for the data that we are sending and receiving from Telegram servers. And this is the most important part of this library. It is not a framework. It does not limit me or us to following some patterns or implement vision of somebody. This is a good starting point. I've been using this library previously. It was not easy to create a bot using just this library because it does not provide any sort of framework help that frameworks usually provide, like do this and do that and you will achieve this and that. So last time I've been using this, I had to implement what I called routing myself, right? So when message is coming in, I had to determine the type of it, I had to route it to a proper handler. Actually I managed that, and that was pretty fun to implement that part. Maybe I will share it someday, but nevertheless I found out there is a different approach that I would love to check out, and that's the reason why this time I'm giving it a try. Second library is called Telestage. It's probably not very well known, but it's a port to Golang from Node.js library that is called Telegraph. And this library introduces an important concept to Telegram and probably for other chats as well. As soon as we implement HTTP server, it's very natural to handle a single request, then handle another request, then handle another request. We still have a concept of session. With this Telestage or Telegraph in Node.js, we implement such a concept of session. However, we call them stages. What it gives us a convenient abstraction to handle a few user requests, so actually a few messages from the user, combine them all together within one handler, let's say. By the way, I have created forks for both libraries. I will leave the links below. And for Telegram bot API, I have made just some changes regarding the way webhooks and configurations are passed and handled inside. So some internal API changes a bit, just to my convenience. It's open source library, so everyone can do and improve and adapt whatever the way he wants or she wants. The Telestage library, I felt it was pretty abandoned, so obviously I switched it to use my fork first of all, and other than that I reworked API a bit as well, and just yesterday I added Redis support for storing the scenes or the states of the users. The third thing I've been working on last week was configuration. Meanwhile, I've been using a couple of libraries for Golang to read the environment variables and hold them in the structs and combining the structs all together as a single configuration, and that was working fine. Don't get me wrong, this is absolutely right and good thing to keep some configurations in environment variables to make it safe, to make it reusable, to make it highly flexible. That's absolutely great. That's part of 12-factor application. If you're not familiar with what it is, I will leave a link below as well. When Golang application is growing, and if the only mechanism to pass some configuration are actual environment variables, it is not convenient anymore. I mean, it's probably not the best thing I can do to let everyone know that I run my server or my application in development mode, but it's not a critical issue. So I would like to have configuration files. While there are JSON files that are common to hold the configuration, there are also YAML files that I do not enjoy too much, but I'm using them. The reason why I do not enjoy YAML files because I do not like the situation where invisible symbols have syntactic meaning. This is also the reason why I do not enjoy, and I'm not diving deep into Python yet. With just a single space somewhere in your YAML configuration or Python code, your code or your configuration is not valid anymore. It's not cool when you are working on the, let's say, production server to get application back fast, and you're editing some YAML configurations and boom, everything is broken even more because you have a missing space somewhere in the YAML you've just edited. Getting back to the configuration itself, as I said, there could be a JSON, there could be a YAML, which I don't like, but that's fine. There are also TOML and probably other less known but more fancy tools or fancy formats to handle the configuration. Nevertheless, last month I found out there is a great new language actually developed for the specifically configurations released by Apple. We can be unhappy with the fact that we start to process everything, even simple things like configurations. However, if we want some abstraction to be more safe against our stupidity or forgetting something or being unfocused on what we are doing right now and making some human mistakes, then we have to process this data anyway and have an ability to add some rules, what is allowed and what is not. So this tool that I'm speaking about is Pkl-language. For now, it has bindings for 4 languages, I think. It's Kotlin, Go, Swift, Java, and I'm using that in the very simple manner. For now, I have just a couple of separate configs that are compiled, or actually some Golang structs are generated based on these configs, and I'm just using these configs whenever I need to. It can be also outputted or actually compiled into JSON and YAML just in case you need it that way. For example, you would like to use this same configuration or the same part of configuration for, let's say, front-end application that can consume JSON most probably, then you can just reuse your Pkl structs or your Pkl classes and generate the configurations exactly from the same configuration that you are using on the backend, but generated in JSON format and passes to the front-end application or mobile application or whatever you need it. That's a really great thing in my opinion, and that's why I'm adopting it immediately. I'm giving it a try. I've spent almost entire day on implementing this because it's not very mature yet. There are not so many guides or documentation is there, but it's not always straightforward how to match everything together and adapt to specifically my case, but I actually achieved what I wanted. So as I said, I'm just defining a couple of modules that are, let's say, database module, then there is a bot module, and it's just separate structs. I'm just combining them all together, and I'm using Pkl file, the main Pkl file that defines all the entire structure of the config, of the main config struct, let's say, or the object. Also, I can override the values immediately there, but other than that, some of the properties are defined to be read from environment variables, so I'm not keeping my bot token or other passwords from database in the config, and will never keep it there. I'm just passing it as environment variables. At the same time, I reduced the amount of environment variables my application needs to like 3 right now, probably 3 or 4. So that's a great thing to do, in my opinion. I'm really opting to use that, and most probably I will prepare a separate video about using the Pkl itself. It's a really powerful tool, and I believe it should be adapted by many teams around the world. Well, that's all for today, for today's update. I'm still fighting with Swift. I'm still doing my best to make time to move on with learning Swift. Nevertheless, it's really challenging to write some code, to produce YouTube videos, even I'm keeping it pretty simple so far, and learn Swift, and especially I had to prepare for my talk, so yeah, I was consumed with that for almost 2 days. Despite I started to prepare my materials pretty early this time, I still had to invest time into segregating them, into forming a story, as this is the main challenge or most important part for me right now, why I'm moving on with the YouTube channel, why I wanted to give a talk on the developer meetup, is to learn and practice into telling the stories, right? This is most exciting thing, how we can share the knowledge or share anything actually. So thank you for watching me. Please let me know if you liked anything about it, and see you next time. All the best to you. Bye bye.